David, it's an absolute pleasure to talk with you today. Could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm a pretty unusual teacher because I started learning English pretty late. I didn't study English at the university. I didn't like English back then, so I studied forestry. But I worked in a forestry company. I started from the bottom, and I climbed the ladder. I got to the top. I became the manager, but I didn't really like what I did. It was what mainly networking, marketing, a lot of stuff with politicians and so on. So I thought that I needed a change. I didn't study forestry to attend meetings. And I decided to travel. I went to Peru as a volunteer, and then I ended up in UK. When I got to UK, I was 33 years old, no English or whatsoever, like basic English, like grammar and this kind of things. But even when I arrived there, I thought, okay, this is the wrong country. Everything that I studied, when they when they talk to me, I don't really understand them. So I started working as a sandwich man, a profession that I didn't even know that existed. It was like really, really unusual here in Spain, like moving with a bike around, like with trying to sell sandwiches to people. And I realized that if I wanted to, improve in my life, I should learn English. And that was my motivation and my ambition. And then I started to learn English. I attended to the university. And before coming back to Spain, I thought, okay, I've learned English pretty fast. I was pretty old if you compare with average people who learn English. And I thought, there are like a lot of stereotypes and misconceptions here. Why can't I apply this kind of experiential knowledge help other people? And that's why I decided to become an English teacher.
That's such an interesting story. But your story is fascinating. So you learned English by selling sandwiches on a bike in London.
Yeah, well, that's how I started. Then obviously I attended to classes. I went to the university, and yes, I just practiced as much as possible. But I think that the main takeaway is that, I mean, it's never too late. Sounds like a commonplace, but it's true. And also, if you have a motivation, I mean, everything just comes easily after that, because then you find time, you find commitment, you find everything that you need to learn a language.
I can sometimes forget how lucky I am that English is the language I was born into, because I've never really had to learn another language in order to communicate in many places of the world. I may not understand the culture fully if I'm operating in English rather than, let's say, Spanish if I was working in Spain, or Italian if I was in Italy. But I can still communicate on a functional level. And I was thinking about, you were in London and learning to communicate in English, and you said that you didn't really have any English to start with.
Yeah.
What was it like? I'm thinking emotionally and just on a day-to-day basis. You've got no English skills, no English language, and you're trying to communicate with English people. What was that like?
Well, just moving to a different culture is a challenge, and you need to adjust to the culture. But if you don't control the language, it's like you become like a different person. Like all the things that you want to express are really difficult to convey, so you struggle. Even when you advance and progress in your language, still there are things for me like irony or expressing feelings that I always tell my students that are the most difficult things to acquire in a second language, because also you need cultural context to use them. But yeah, it's like you become like a different person. You are not able to express yourself, and it's frustration and pain, basically. Feel that you are not yourself at the beginning. Then you may become a different person, which is good.
And you were doing this amongst native English speakers, certainly when you were in London. What did you need from them? What were the best ways in which native English speakers could be helpful to you when you were trying to communicate?
That's an interesting question. Well, I think that probably the main thing is awareness. I believe that people don't help you out because they are not aware that you need help. So basically, I really trust people. I think that people usually have goodwill. So I think that they don't try to help you out, to slow down, to avoid jargon and these kind of things, it's because they are not aware of that.
If you were to give 3 short tips to native English speakers about how to be helpful in communication with people who speak English as a second language, whatever their level, 3 tips to native speakers to improve the way they communicate, what would it be?
Okay. The first one is not a tip, as we said before, awareness. You can only change the things that you are aware of. They should try to probably what are the challenges of their audience, because the thing is that you don't have to take anything for granted. So okay, first you're aware that they don't follow properly what you are saying. They are not native speakers. So once you realize about that, then you may ask them, guys, what do you need to make this kind of conversation effective? And probably, but it depends on the listener, so I cannot tell them what is the most important. It could be about the speed, about jargon, and probably about connected speech, this kind of thing that also happen related to the pace speaking.
So jargon, speed, and connected speech.
Yeah, I would say that are the main things.
Can you tell me a bit more about connected speech and what you mean by that?
Well, it's like the way that probably it's related to the speed. When you, in English, when you speak pretty fast, you tend to connect the last sound of one word with the sound of the next word. For example, things such as going to can become gonna, want to can become wanna. So if you can adjust that when you're communicating, then your audience will be more likely to understand you if they are not native speakers. And jargon, I didn't know how much jargon we use in general. I think that all the languages until I went to UK, but not in UK. Then I realized when I came back to Spain, because then I was aware how difficult it was to understand a second language, that with my friends, I was all the time using slang, jargon, different kind of sentences, fixed sentences, idioms. Sometimes they are really, really regional. So then you have to be aware of that and try to understand. The other people may not understand you because they don't have this background.
How has your experience of learning English influenced the way that you teach?
I like to call it like experiential teaching, the way that I have experience. It's like sometimes when you watch this kind of videos that they give you advice in terms of like try to show your audience that you can relate to them. In my case, I don't have to make any effort because I can easily relate to them because my audience is like me 7 years ago. So I really know what they need. I really understand what the problems that they face, and I apply that to my classes. Something that I learned as well from my experience was that it's like, you have this kind of idea in your mind. I'm not going to say anything unless I can say it properly. There is no such a thing as a perfection. And if there would be this kind of thing as a perfection, probably it will backfire. So it's like you have to be at ease with mistakes. It's like making mistakes is part of the beauty. It's like instead of avoiding mistakes, it's like if you're going to wait until you can do something perfectly, probably you won't do anything. So I know I want to improve myself. I want to learn more English. I'm still learning English every day. I learn a new word, something new, but it doesn't stop me from being a teacher because I can share other things. So probably these kind of mistakes that I make are part of my charm as a teacher. So I try to share with them the same.
I'm going to ask you to generalize. Who speaks better English? Native English speakers or people who speak English as a second language?
Wow, that is a really tricky question. Probably there is no, like, as usual in this kind of questions, there is no a black and white answer. I would say that both. Everybody speaks great English. It's like different people speaking different English. Why do we have to have like just one kind of standard English? We have different ways of speaking English. And as long as we are communicating, let's not forget the idea of language. Language is a tool to communicate. I tell my students all the time. The important here, we're paying too much attention to the tool. It's like, wow, you're an English teacher. Yes, but it's a tool. Pay attention to your message. Pay attention to you. So you comes first. Your message comes first. When you master your message and yourself, who you are, then we will work with the tool. So it's the same here. It's like, I mean, different people using the tool in different ways. But can we communicate? Can we share? Can we relate? If we can do so, all of us are great communicators. So it's not about the pronunciation, it's not about the fluency, it's about communication. Then we should define what is communication then.
I was just going to ask you, I noted down as we were talking. David, in your view, what is the purpose of communication?
That's hard to answer. Probably it's like sharing feelings, information, values. Share is a beautiful word. I haven't thought about that, but share implies two ways, and communication implies two ways. So you have to speak, I have to listen. I have to speak, you have to listen. That's why listening probably is really, really important. I really like this idea of active listening. Try to listen properly what people say. And communication is trying to listen properly first to understand what are the needs, feelings, thoughts the other person have, and then be aware, as we said before, of your feelings, thoughts, and beliefs, and try to find a common place. I don't know if you have heard about non-violent communication, that it was developed by, I don't remember the name now, well, doesn't matter. It's really trendy now because was a mediator.
Marshall Rosenberg.
Yes, he was a mediator between Palestine and Israel in the past, so it's really trendy, this idea. But I try to implement that in the conversations with my clients sometimes if I have like an issue with my family or with my friends. It's time-consuming, but it's great, this idea, because it's like you divide in two areas. First, first you have the facts, and then you have your feelings, other people's feelings, needs, other people's needs, and then also how can you convey that in a way that you respect your feelings and your needs and other people's needs and feelings. It's fantastic. Sorry, it takes time, but it's a really good way to work on this idea of communication. What is communication? It's about sharing.
So empathy seems to be really important to you as a way of enhancing and enabling communication. And you've been saying communication is just a tool to help us share. How can people become better at empathizing?
Well, probably, I mean, empathy is not just about understanding them. It's trying to create something together. Because if you just understand them, it's like, okay, I understand you, but I'm not going to change my mind. So this is not empathy. So, I mean, empathy is a very useful tool when you are teaching as well, because, I mean, it's about observation and again, awareness. If you are empathetic, you know that this person is getting bored. So you are aware that the class is not working. So then you have two ways. That I'm really empathetic. I know that you're getting bored. I'm not going to change anything. Or let's try to do something together. Again, sharing. How can we make this conversation productive? So that is empathy for me.
For the sake of argument, I'm doing a presentation to a multinational group of people who speak English as their second language. I'm on the stage, I'm delivering a lecture or a presentation at a university or in a business seminar. What should I be looking for in my audience to see if I'm communicating? And what should I do?
Okay, first of all, as we said before, empathy is about understanding other people's needs. So preparation is key when you are attending to a presentation. So basically, if you know that they are English second language, do a bit of research, what can be the need of your people. What may they need? And once you are there and you have prepared your presentation, you're aware that they may have some problems with your pronunciation, with your speed, with your use, like irony, perhaps it's not convenient, I don't know, you name it. Then, as usual, you have to pay attention to your audience. It's like, look at them, look at their eyes. Are they following you? Do they know as you are doing right now? Or they are like, oh my God, what is going on here? And again, it's communication. Let's use the tool. Guys, any questions so far? Do you follow me? I know that you are not English speakers. I mean, it's not your first language. I'm speaking to, I mean, don't be afraid to be honest. Like, honest, this is the first time that I speak in front of non-native English, so perhaps I got carried away. Don't hesitate to interrupt me if I'm too fast. Even though you say that, you have to create this kind of friendly atmosphere. It's not enough with saying like really, really stern, like, guys, feel free to interrupt me. No, you have to create this kind of atmosphere. So from time to time, stop, look at them, ask questions, invite them to participate, double check, basically, if they are following you.
And it seems as well, it's about communicating about communication. So in your example, simply saying, please tell me if I'm talking too quickly, please interrupt if you don't understand. That's communicating about communication and acknowledging this is a joint co-created enterprise, really.
Yeah.
Which I think also relates back to what you were saying about there isn't really one standard form of English. If this is the first time I'm presenting to a multilingual, multinational group, the way that I talk, the standard, the form of English that I use may well need to be different. That could be new for me to implement, but I may not be able to rely on the way that I normally speak or speak in other contexts. So I think there's a lot in what you've been saying there that's really, really
That's
interesting.
why I think that it's better asking than guessing. So, I mean, the more information you have, the better. That's why training before your presentation, trying to understand your audience is great. But at the end of the day, you will be there, you will be exposed to these people, so ask them what they need. What are their needs? Do they follow you or not? So I think that the more information you have, the more empathy also you have as well.
As a coach, you can see you're very encouraging and let's do this, let's make things better. Let me be negative for a moment.
All right.
Have you got any examples either from your own life personally or from friends or from students where the way that native English speakers communicate have caused problems?
Yeah, of course. I have seen, because one of the things that I do with my clients is they ask their companies to record the meetings or whatsoever, and if they allow to do so, sometimes I have to sign some like privacy documents, but they are very, very helpful because I can see what are the real problems that they have in the meetings. The speed, or they keep using jargon. Well, some people are selfish.
You said that native English speakers should avoid jargon, slow down, empathize. Well, for me, with my cultural background from the UK and my education system, we are rewarded here if we use long, complicated, sophisticated language and jargon. That makes me have a higher status and feel better about myself. So if I have to simplify, I begin to feel stupid, not as clever. If I slow down my speech, I associate that with being patronizing, with showing the other person that I think they're a bit stupid, like I'm talking to a two-year-old. Now you're saying communication's two ways, so those things are my problem from my culture. Give me some coaching.
Well, I'll do my best.
Encourage me to get over those problems and slow down and simplify.
Well, basically, you need to ask yourself, why should you slow down? What is the reason that you should do that? Why should you avoid using jargon? It's a question. Why?
Oh, okay. You're asking me.
Yeah. You wanted coaching, so coaching is about questions.
Yeah,
It's
good.
your fault.
Good, I'm saying
Don't blame me. Yes. Why should you slow down? Why?
To improve communication.
Then
To
you
help
got
them be
it.
understood.
Yes. So what is then you have to evaluate what is more important for you, that your audience understand you or your state. You have to decide. Again, the same example that we were talking before about the other guy that didn't make any effort to communicate. Well, what is more important for you, your ego, your status, or communication? If it's more important for your status, go ahead, man. That's it. It's like it's like, but 90% of people, I would say that they prefer to communicate, or 99% of the people. As you said, I'm an optimistic person, so I would say that they don't do so because they are not aware, not because they are aware and they don't want to. On all the recordings that I have seen, every time that people realize that their audience don't follow them, they change the way they speak. But we are so self-centered. It's everything about ourselves that sometimes we don't realize. That's why, like, helping them to be aware of the challenges that non-native people may face is a great idea, because it's like they don't know it. How can you change something that you are not aware?
David, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.